Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Happy Sunday to everybody. And today, here on the channel, I want to talk some money in the bank. Of course, it was last night in Toronto, and they had almost 20,000 fans. I think they said 19,800 and either 48 or 58 is the capacity for that particular Coliseum. So it was a sellout at just under 20,000 people. If you follow the channel, you know that the other day I ran down the match card, and then I gave my prediction on what match was going to take place when. And I did that just for craps and giggles, just for fun. But the reason why I done it in the order I did is because ever since they started having the women's Royal Rumble along with the men's Royal Rumble, just about every year, if not every year, the opening match is the women's Royal Rumble. And now they have the Money in the Bank for the men and the women. And if I'm not mistaken, last year the women opened up Money in the Bank with the women's Money in the Bank match. So I thought, well, they'll just continue down that road, and the first match will be the women's Money in the Bank. But when the show started and the first match was the men's Money in the Bank, I immediately, instantly knew who was going to win it. And a lot of people predicted Drew McIntyre to win. The only reason I didn't is because he's had this feud going with CM Punk, and I thought, well, Drew McIntyre is going to be close to winning it, and CM Punk's going to interfere and keep Drew McIntyre from winning it. But he didn't interfere in the men's Money in the Bank match, and Drew McIntyre outlasted Carmelo Hayes, Chad Gable, Andrade, Jey Uso, and LA Knight to win the men's Money in the Bank match. And everybody talks about Samantha Irvin and how good of a ring announcer she is. And she is good. She's not Howard Finkel good. There'll never be anybody better than him. I don't even think she's Tony Chimmel good, but she's definitely better than Justin Roberts. Not even close. But I can't stand when she talks because she has that one arm that she just does this with while she talks. And that absolutely drives me crazy. But she is, outside of that, a really good ring announcer. Sami Zayn defeated Braun Breaker to retain the Intercontinental Championship. After that match, John Cena comes out and says that next year's WrestleMania will be his last match. But he is going to be in the men's Royal Rumble next year. And he also wants to wrestle at Elimination Chamber next year. But WrestleMania will be his last match. And by the time WrestleMania next year gets here, he's going to be almost 48 years old. And he has not wrestled full time now in close to a decade. So if you're never going to wrestle anyway, you might as well go ahead and retire. So John Cena is calling it a career at WrestleMania next year. Damian Priest beat Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. It started out, of course, just Damian Priest and Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre comes out, cashes in the Money in the Bank during that match, and that's when CM Punk shows up and makes sure that Drew McIntyre does not win the championship. There was a huge mishap in that match, and I feel bad for the referee, but it's something that people will never, ever forget, because referees are kind of like field goal kickers in football. You can do your job 99 times, and nobody even gives you any credit for it. But the one time a kicker misses a game-winning kick, he gets threatened by every fan of that team. Well, being a ref's kind of the same way. You do your job all the time, nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody notices. But you mess up, and everybody in the world notices. And there was a spot in the match. Seth Rollins pinned Damian Priest, and Damian Priest did not kick up, and the referee just stopped counting and held up two fingers. I think what happened was Drew McIntyre was supposed to come out right there, and his music was supposed to start right there, and that was going to cause Seth to get off of Damian to look at Drew coming down the entranceway, and for whatever reason, Drew's music didn't start, so Damian just laid there. But had the ref kept counting, which is what you're taught to do, you would have had to change up the Judgment Day right there, because had Damian lost, well, he's out of Judgment Day. So you all of a sudden have to run and find them to send them out there to attack Damian because he got beat. So that changes up that entire storyline. Plus, Drew never shows up. CM Punk never shows up. So it would have changed the entire complexion of the Judgment Day. And Drew and CM Punk had the ref kept counting. But I don't know if Drew wasn't ready or if the button on the music just didn't work. I'm not sure what happened, but I feel bad for the ref because that video is going to be all over social media for the next probably a week or two now. Tiffany Stratton wins the women's Money in the Bank match. I actually predicted that the other day in my video. I predicted Chad Gable for the men and Tiffany Stratton for the women. The only reason I picked Chad Gable is because, like I said, I thought CM Punk would keep Drew McIntyre from winning. But he did let Drew McIntyre win the Money in the Bank match. But Tiffany Stratton wins the women's Money in the Bank match. So it is officially Tiffy time. And in the main event, the Bloodline defeated Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes. And even though Cody is the champion right now, I understand that. And the Bloodline storyline right now is the best thing going. I'm surprised that it's the Money in the Bank premium live event and you don't close out the show with a Money in the Bank match. That's kind of the purpose of the show. That's why it's called Money in the Bank. So you call it Money in the Bank, but then Money in the Bank is not the main event match. But the Bloodline storyline is good. The only problem is they're bringing in every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the family. So whenever this storyline ends, and it'll have to end someday, it can't go forever. Whenever it ends, now you're going to have 975 people with nothing to do, because you can't all of a sudden use that many wrestlers if you end the Bloodline. But that's what's going to happen if you just continuously bring in members of the family. And that's a big family. So even though it's been going on forever, there's still a lot of people they have not yet brought in. So it'll be interesting to see how long this goes. And it'll also be fun to see what they do with all the guys from both sides of the family if and when this storyline ends. Because the way they're going now, by the time it ends, there's going to be more people just in that family than there is on the rest of the roster combined. So what do you do with them when it ends? No idea. I guess we'll find out. But for now, it's a very compelling, a very entertaining, and a very interesting storyline. Any thoughts on Money in the Bank? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My friend grew up in an area where the streets were lined with sandpaper. It was a pretty rough neighborhood. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.